And welcome to another wonderful day in I Love Black People episode with a wonderful sister that you guys have actually heard from. She's been the one giving our clarion call of what's been going on with a very important and dear issue to our community regarding reparations. We have our good Sister Dreisen Heath. Welcome, Black, to I Love Black People. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Brother Sinclair. Always great to be here.
All right, now we got people who haven't met you before. We always get new folks to join us. Can you just give us just a little bit of the back of your background so we can give them a proper context of what do they say? Once you show people, once people know you care, they care what you know. So give them a little bit something on that.
Appreciate that. I'm a Tulsa-born reparations activist, first and foremost, and an organizer, a strategist, lover of my people. I also, in my day job, am a researcher and advocate at Human Rights Watch, focusing more broadly on racial justice issues within the U.S. because Human Rights Watch is an international organization. We work in over 100 countries, but I focus solely within the U.S. But obviously, you can't talk about racial justice without reparations. So I also lead our reparations research and advocacy. I've testified before U.S. Congress several times on the issue, as well as in local and municipal government hearings, and then supporting communities on the ground who are trying to realize repair for continuing legacies that impact them, and trying to close the gaps between what's the right way to treat humanity and what's the wrong way.
All right. Well, let's focus then and kind of drill down. You've given us updates throughout the last several months on what's been going on Capitol Hill with the reparations legislation, the only reparation legislation that we have, and it's just a study. It's not actually cutting the checks and giving us the repairs. HR 40. Where are we, and what would be the best way to update that?
Right. It is a study that will develop reparations proposals, which is the most important part of the process, is the developing of reparations proposals with the community's own determination of what that should look like. And so HR 40 has been in Congress, introduced as a bill originally by the late Representative John Conyers since 1989. So that's 32 years and some change. And in 2017, it received a helpful revision to make it a more active bill and not just a study, but one that would actually produce proposals that can be acted on in the same ways that Congress passed the Commission on Wartime Relocation and Internment of Civilians, which investigated the wrongful and incarceration conditions and concentration camps within World War II that impacted Japanese Americans and other people of Japanese descent, as well as Germans and others. But the majority that were impacted were Japanese Americans. And so following that commission, there was a reparations bill for the Japanese Americans, the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. And that produced 4 specific remedies, including financial compensation. So this is a model that the federal government has used before. It's one that's similar even to the National Indian Claims Commission, which, did not, it was not proportional to the range of mass displacement and murder of indigenous and native people, but it was an attempt to reallocate land back, as well as give an official apology, right? So HR 40, would also come with an apology, which we've never had an official apology from the government, basically stating their culpability in this massive, grotesque system of chattel slavery and racial subjugation. And so,
Unbelievable. That is, it's not unbelievable, but that's incredible. Like, I
right.
think the depth of some of these issues and what the egregiousness, it never, amazes me how consistent the United States government has been in the treatment of us as a people. And it's literally not about time, it's past time that these issues are addressed. What do we see in what's going on now on the floor? Has it moved further? Is it still where it's been? What has been the feedback, or what would you say would be the status?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So we got the historic Judiciary Committee vote in April of 2021. And we've been pushing for a floor vote ever since. We've had enough votes to pass the bill. And still, with a record amount of co-sponsors, over 196 co-sponsors, plus additional votes to vote yes, um, we're not getting any signal from House leadership, which includes Speaker Pelosi, Leader Hoyer, and Whip Clyburn, for initiation of a floor vote, despite having the votes and the support to do it. We've seen a number of bills pass that, deal with the legacy of enslavement in this, last few months in Congress that have not had even, 100 co-sponsors that have sailed through with the vote on the floor, including the Crown Act, which addresses discrimination based off of hairstyles, which is, a great piece of legislation. But if employers want to discriminate against you, they're going to discriminate against you. We've seen the anti-lynching legislation passed, named after Emmett Till. That also was a nearly unanimous votes. And so we're talking about hundreds of Republicans also voting in support of this. And so there's no reason not to vote on HR 40. The reasons we've been getting are strictly political, is that this would damage the outcomes in the midterms, specifically for the Democrats. This is even after the Democrats have passed a resolution within the Democratic National Committee to support reparations in HR 40 in all 50 states, including District of Columbia. So they're running away from something that would actually signal that they care about all people, that they care about the well-being of all
Yeah,
people.
and I think your point being made that the Crown Act is definitely important for our country, for the United States, to make sure that our everyone, especially our sisters, are respected. But to use issues that are related to remedies in addition to that, that could more holistically address the legacy of enslavement, to somehow say that that is an issue that would hurt the ability of the Democratic Party to successfully, be elected. It says something else. It really, to
Right.
link justice for our community to somehow being a loser as it relates to this country, I think comes out of the same, sick racism that got us here. I did see several bills passed to send money for war in Ukraine,
Right.
and from what I know as a country, the United States is not at war with anyone at this current point, uh, officially declared, and yet that those monies being sent in a time of economic crisis in the United States is not seen as something that might harm the ability of the Democratic Party to be successfully electorally, but to stand up for citizens that are descendants of our ancestors who were enslaved. It seems as if, again, this is a sick joke in a way. When I say a sick joke, like to talk about the reason why we have political power is to affect change in our community.
Right.
We're literally on a foundation that has been neglected and has failed to give what's been necessary for our productive progress. But in spite of that, we've progressed. To not see this as a win-win, as a huge opportunity to show the citizens, to show Democrats, Republicans, to show the world how important it is to make communities whole from the transgressions that continue, and the history is just a missed opportunity. And it's unfortunate that, no, it's clear that the work that you're doing is so important in order for us to make sure that these people who failed us time and time again in political uh, halls of Congress, we need to, what are we doing now? How are we connecting this issue to upcoming events? I know there's some things that are going on soon around the issue of Juneteenth. Uh, what are some of the things in addition to the continued work that you're doing on the Hill? What else are we doing?
Right. And thank you for raising that up and your analysis on it being a win-win, because that's really what it is, and they can't paint it as anything else. We're going to be, the most important voting block per usual in elections, and there's a continuing bargaining with our lives in terms of what the political structures actually respond to and what they're willing to remedy as a part of this, transaction kind of our vote. While we have political participation, it is always at a cost, because the pandering is really to this white moderate line. And so where we are right now, if House leadership refuses to vote, if Whip Clyburn, who is identified as someone who is supposed to advance Black issues, is resistant to this bill for whatever reason, we look to the executive branch. We know that Biden and Harris was the original Senate co-sponsor of the Senate companion to HR 40. Biden has been on the campaign trail saying that he supports the study of reparations. He also named that in his plan for Black America. That was one of his top line promises. And so it's time for the executive branch to act. They've been saying that they are watching the congressional avenues and seeing how it goes, and the congressional avenues aren't acting in this time frame that they need to. And so when you talk about Juneteenth, right, last year we could have had an opportunity to vote on HR 40 in the House for Juneteenth. Instead, they rammed through the Juneteenth federal holiday bill within a span of days. And that was signed into law. And people always complain about, well, my taxpayer money is going to end up going into this, reparations fund, if we ever get this at the federal level. And it's like every federal holiday costs taxpayers, according to Forbes, at least $818 million. And so we're talking about, again, that could be another payment towards our repair, that is just cemented in a holiday that's purely symbolic. And so where do we need to move towards, this Juneteenth? Reparations. If we're not talking about reparations and we're not delivering on reparations on Juneteenth, then I don't know what we're talking about. And so in DC, there's going to be a powerful moment where racial justice and reparations advocates, activists across the country are planning to get people's attention. And the plans as of now are to have a flower bed, 150 foot by 50 foot, so not quite the size of a football field, but pretty close to it. A flower bed, a red, black, and green flower bed in shape of the Pan African flag. And we know the significance of that flag and the meaning of Black liberation and freedom. And this flag being birthed out of racism in apartheid-like conditions in the 1920s, when we had dozens of race massacres, where we had separate life between black and white, where we had the criminalization of life, of black life in particular. And each color of the Pan African flag has meaning. We know the red represents this bloodshed as a result of chattel slavery and racial subjugation. We know the black represents the strength of our African diaspora. Though race is a social construct, I still feel we have pride around the strength of our diaspora and how strong that is across borders and across country lines. And then the green representing people's belonging and connection to the African continent. And so this flower garden is in partnership with a Black woman-owned and DC-based flower collective. We'll be working with Black farmers in the area to install the installation, as well as have some pretty big signs that send another message on the White House ellipse that, there is no racial justice without reparations. Enslaved people built the house that Biden is living in. There is no choice. This is a necessity to provide reparations. And we're not going to let him skirt away from that. This installation is going to be on the southern part of the White House ellipse, which means it's also going to be in the sight line of the White House balcony. And we hope that the president and additional supporting administration officials see this and can't turn their backs on it. Can't turn their backs on Black people any longer, and must take some steps to act. We're not going to all agree that, a commission is where to start. A number of us working on the commission bill use it as an organizing tool, use it as a way to educate people about what reparations are. And what's possible in terms of reparations. Because as Black folks, we have a cultural understanding of reparations, right? And then there is also a legal and a practical understanding of reparations as well. And so how do we maximize the chances and the thinking and the possibility of holistic remedy?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you're, to me, helping me see is that, even when you gave your synopsis about 1989 and connecting the work that the congressman started with HR 40 and where we are now, and some of the different activities, movements, organizations. I think there's so many different ways I think that we can express our interest in achieving reparations. I think one thing that gets troubling is that we think that there's only one way. And I
Right.
think the things that you're expressing and the people that have come together to do this, I think, again, that interpretation of what is necessary, I think is not only commendable, but I know it comes from a lot of hard work and dedication. I think sometimes people look at the results and don't know about the shooting in the gym and the practice that it took to get there. And I think we sometimes minimize that. Um, Even when it comes to what are strategies, I don't think there's one strategy. And I think if we look at any revolutions in Africa or any parts of the world, as well as movements in the United States, there's always been a multiplicity of approaches, because as amazing as we are as a people, we're not monolithic. And I
Right.
think, again, some of this is I had somebody reach out to me about something, and I said, again, we can always agree to disagree without being disagreeable, and
Hmm.
not exacerbate or hurt or harm people personally
Hmm.
in regards to our disagreements. And still, with that being said, be able to, with our differences, come together like the fingers on a hand to do things that act as a collective uh, benefit to the to our black communities. And I say plural black communities because, again, this not monolithic. I think again, the things that you're mentioning as being key areas that we are focusing on to highlight reparations, I think is critical. And I guess there's going to be more opportunities to highlight this as we pass legislation as well as we complete studies that are focused on our issue of reparations. Um, what do you see, or what would you like to see to happen next? Where can people, how can they get involved with the current work you're doing around Juneteenth and support the black businesses that have supported this initiative? What are some of the things that our people can do as a call to action, as well as probably reaching out to their congressional members to get this legislation passed?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always something you can do. There's always a way you can be impactful, from home or, outside of your home. And one of those is taking action on our coalition's campaign page. It will send a email directly to the White House, to their staff who are working on this issue, at hrw.org/reparations now. You can also call the White House comment line and tell them that Biden needs to create a commission on reparations. He needs to use his executive powers to act on reparations by Juneteenth. Our coalition groups within our coalition sent a letter to the White House in May, demanding that the Biden sign an executive order on reparations by June 19th. Um, you know, we'll be really disappointed if the announcement, which I'm hearing, uh, may just kick the can down the road again. Um, it should be an announcement that this commission is being stood up. It should not be an announcement that you are thinking about reparations later on in your administration, with the possibility of it being overturned and revoked in the event that there is a change in political leadership in 2024. Like, this is a do or die moment for us as a people. You either go over the hump or you roll back down. Quite frankly, that's where we are. We're at that apex. We're at the top of the hill right now. We've never been this close to federal reparations. Besides maybe, the pension bounty efforts, by Cowley House and others, that got shut down by the federal government. And so here we are again, replicating replicating a chance towards, um, you know, there's still of course, space to practice self determination and to focus on self determination within our communities. But we have one of the biggest perpetrators in the federal government who have not paid up in the ways that they need to. And this is for the kidnapping and trafficking of human beings. This is for a racial hierarchy system. This is for racial subjugation. This is for criminalizing all aspects of Black life. This is for, impeding on the livelihoods and the human rights of Black people in this country. This isn't light. This is necessarily heavy, and our people have carried that burden. And so it's time to lift that burden off. It is not our job to shed all of the mess that has been put on us. It is not our job to shed the oppressive conditions that continue to keep us under. Um, you cannot you can't bury these experiences alive. I think that's one thing that we've come to realize as a people. It's like you and me, Brother Sinclair, are here um, nearly miraculously. Somehow our people survived generations of torture, generations of subjugation, and yet here we are standing. So that's a win in itself, right? To exist. But it's another win to actually thrive in your lifetime, and not just purely survive. And that's not focusing on one individual's condition and one individual making it out. It's focused on the collective being able to make it out. And so there are, again, put pressure on the White House, because that's where this whole political process is. Quite frankly, House leadership is also supposed to be lobbying the White House. But again, we're all going to be disappointed come Juneteenth if there is no substantive action on reparations. All of us deserve to have whatever day of rest we want to enjoy and experience Black joy on Juneteenth. But there's also, a number of us that'll be working for reparations and that will be lifting up that call. And I think all of our communities should hold that near and dear, and continue to move forward.
Well, awesome, sister. Well, thank you again. Thank you for always giving and sharing our time. I know I wouldn't, and many of our listeners wouldn't even understand or know a lot about these topics, but for your willingness and giving this to share on this show. So again, as we always end, I am because we are, and we definitely wouldn't be us without you, Sister Dreisen. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful Juneteenth.